David Muir, ABC's World News Tonight, America's most watched newscast. Now streaming same day with all the breaking news of the day on Disney+. Most watched, most trusted. Now on Disney+ every night.
Tonight, President Trump's new warning to Iran as the first American casualties return home, and the severe weather threat on the move after a deadly tornado outbreak in the Midwest. Tonight, President Trump vowing to hit Iran very hard today as the war enters its second week. Airstrikes pummeling Tehran, including a key airport. New satellite images show damage to Iran's naval and aircraft facilities. Matt Rivers reports from the region tonight. The dignified transfer at Dover Air Force Base as the first fallen soldiers come home from the Middle East. President Trump and the First Lady there. The president not ruling out sending ground forces into the fight amid new concerns that Russia may be helping Iran with intelligence about the location of U.S. troops. Selina Wang is with the president. Iran's neighbors now under fire. Oil facilities threatened across the region. Here at home, the price of gas up almost 50 cents in the first week of the war. Tonight, states of emergency after deadly tornadoes tear through the Heartland.
Oh, my God.
At least 8 dead in the 2-day outbreak. Homes destroyed, neighborhoods left in ruin, and the severe weather threats from Texas to New York tonight. Meteorologist Danny Beckstrom here with the forecast. Newly released video of the deadly shooting of an American citizen by federal immigration agents. Officials claimed the driver deliberately rammed an agent with his car, what the video appears to show. Suspicious devices thrown during a clash of protesters outside Gracie Mansion, the home of New York's Mayor Zohran Mamdani. 4 people under arrest. A record-setting season for Miami of Ohio's men's basketball team, undefeated in the regular season, the only unbeaten team in Division I hoops. But is that enough to earn them a spot in March Madness? And the little girl awaiting a new heart, and the message from construction workers outside her window every day at 3 o'clock. Tonight's America Strong.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us on this Saturday. I'm Lindsay Davis. We begin tonight with the war. President Trump is now warning of hard strikes as the conflict in the Middle East spirals into its second week. Tonight, the gravity of the war is impossible to ignore. At Dover Air Force Base in Delaware, the president in attendance at the somber transfer of the remains of 6 American service members killed during the first days of the war, while fire and smoke rise from an oil refinery in Tehran as Israel launches a new wave of attacks. American B-1 bombers have now arrived in the UK as the U.S. promises a surge in attacks. Rockets continue to rain over Tel Aviv and the West Bank in Iran's latest barrage, a stark reminder of the escalating violence. President Trump says moments ago that there could be ground troops going into Iran, but they would have to be for a very good reason. We have full team coverage tonight as the war intensifies. Matt Rivers leads us off from Beirut, Lebanon.
As 6 fallen service members killed in action are returned to the U.S. Tonight, President Trump vowing Iran will, quote, be hit very hard, saying the U.S. has identified new targets for, quote, complete destruction and certain death as the war rages on.
We're doing very well in Iran. You see the result, and it's been amazing.
The president praising the strength and scope of the U.S. military operation.
We have amazing weaponry, as you probably noticed over the last short period of time.
This satellite image showing the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier positioned just 200 miles off the coast of Iran as American B-1 bombers seen arriving in the UK. Airstrikes aimed at critical regime targets relentlessly pummeling Tehran. A huge explosion at Mehrabad International Airport. The massive fireball seen in video posted on X. These satellite images show damage to strategic air and missile bases. Meanwhile, Israel launching a new wave of strikes, targeting this oil refinery in Tehran. Iran's national oil refining company confirmed the attack. Video of the fireball posted on X. Tonight, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu saying Israel has, quote, many more surprises for the next phase of its operation. This comes just hours after Israeli fighter jets targeted the late Iranian Supreme Leader's underground bunker complex in Tehran. Iran says it launched a new wave of attacks of its own against Israel and U.S. assets in the region. The country's president saying the U.S. demand for an unconditional surrender is a dream that they should take to their grave, but going on to apologize to neighboring countries that were attacked by Iran and claiming that Iranian forces will not target those countries unless Iran is attacked from them. But the strikes continued today in several Gulf countries. Video posted on X showing the moment an Iranian drone struck near the airport in Dubai, the airport temporarily suspending operations. And tonight, the war opening up on several fronts, from Lebanon to Iraq, where our James Longman met with Kurdish forces who are within striking distance of Iran.
I'm at the Iraqi border crossing with Iran. Take a look, we are high in the mountains here. This is the crossing over here. And we've been talking to people, and we understand that the Iranians sent border reinforcements to this region because they are paranoid about a possible incursion, a ground incursion into the country.
And in Beirut, the strikes intensifying by the day. Dozens of airstrikes pounding a Hezbollah stronghold neighborhood in Beirut and other targets across the country. The Israeli military renewing evacuation warnings for everyone living in southern Lebanon and in parts of Beirut. Hundreds of thousands of people, like this young family we met, forced to flee with only moments' notice. He says they left their home with only the clothes on their backs, adding his children are now terrified of the noise of fighter jets. Tonight, Hezbollah launching dozens of missiles at sites across Israel, the IDF saying they will respond in force.
And Lindsay, just minutes ago, the Israeli military confirming that they have once again begun striking targets against Hezbollah across the city of Beirut this evening, specifically in the southern suburb of Doha. Likely another night of relentless airstrikes ahead. Lindsay?
Tension across the Middle East, Matt, thank you. Now to President Trump honoring the 6 U.S. service members killed by a drone strike in Kuwait. The grieving families were also there. This as the president is warning of more casualties and not ruling out sending in ground forces. And what we're learning tonight about the fallen. Here's ABC senior White House correspondent Selina Wang.
Tonight, President Trump honoring the 6 American soldiers killed in the opening hours of the war with Iran, attending the dignified transfer at Dover Air Force Base, witnessing their bodies return along with the families of the fallen. The 6 Americans killed when a drone hit the facility where they were working in Kuwait.
This was the morning before we dropped him off for him to leave.
Among them, 20-year-old Sergeant Declan Cody, his sister in disbelief.
I still don't fully think it's real.
Also killed, 39-year-old Sergeant First Class Nicola Moore, a mother of 2 just days away from returning to her family. And 42-year-old Sergeant First Class Noah Tegens, a father to a teenage son with just 3 months left in his tour. Captain Cody Cork's family says the 35-year-old lived with purpose, loved deeply, and served honorably. The Pentagon also confirming the deaths of 45-year-old Major Jeffrey O'Brien of Iowa and 54-year-old Chief Warrant Officer Robert Marzin. Just hours ago, the president honoring their sacrifice while also warning Americans of more U.S. casualties.
They're great heroes in our country, and we're going to keep it that way. There's always, when it comes to war, there's always that, but we're going to keep it to a minimum, I think.
As sources tell ABC News, Russia has been providing Iran with the locations of American troops in the region, including aircraft and ships. The president not ruling out boots on the ground and declining to answer when I pressed him.
Mr. President, are you considering sending ground troops into Iran?
But hours later, the president saying ground troops could be sent in for very good reason.
Say if we ever did that, they would be so decimated that they wouldn't be able to fight at the ground level.
And Lindsay, sources tell us that the U.S. is currently investigating strikes on an elementary school in Iran that killed dozens of children. They say it's possible American forces are responsible for the attack, as Iran claims, because the U.S. was conducting strikes in the vicinity of the school. But tonight, Lindsay, President Trump is blaming Iran.
Selina, thank you. Iran's president is apologizing for attacks on neighboring countries, but they're still launching missiles and drones at those Gulf nations. Some strikes hitting oil fields, which is now causing prices to spike for consumers here in the U.S. ABC's Marcus Moore reports from Qatar tonight.
Tonight, oil fields on fire from Iraq to Tehran, fueling growing concerns over the rising price of oil. Oil is now approaching $100 a barrel and climbing fast. already impacting Americans. Prices at the pump rising nearly 50 cents a gallon in a week. Jet fuel prices soaring even faster. On February 27th, the average price of jet fuel was $2.50 per gallon, compared to $3.95 per gallon on Thursday, according to the Argus U.S. Jet Fuel Index. Kuwait and the UAE already limiting oil production. And Qatar taking the extraordinary step of pausing its liquefied natural gas production, days after Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz. And traffic remains disrupted in the strait, where 20% of the world's gas supply passes through. The White House trying to calm fears, announcing a $20 billion reinsurance program for oil tankers and other maritime traffic. Companies worried about the risk to their ships, crew, and cargo. Even after Iran apologized for striking their Gulf neighbors, those nations still on defense tonight. And trillions of dollars of investments in the U.S. may be at stake amid concerns about the region. A leading Emirati businessman lashing out at President Trump on X, writing, quote, "Who gave you the authority to drag our region into a war with Iran? And on what basis did you make this dangerous decision?" And there is reportedly anger in the government of some Gulf states that they were not given more warning ahead of the retaliation from Iran that has rained down on their countries.
And Lindsay, those scenes of smoke rising and fires burning at oil facilities like the Shahran refinery in Tehran are prompting several Gulf states now to cut back on production, which is further pushing up prices. Lindsay.
Marcus, thank you. And for more on the ongoing conflict with Iran, tune into This Week tomorrow morning. Martha Raddatz reports from Jerusalem. Now to other major news this Saturday night. Millions of Americans are on alert for severe weather. Deadly and powerful tornadoes tore through Michigan, leaving a trail of destruction, killing at least 4 people. Tornadoes are also turning deadly in Oklahoma. At least 4 people died there as well. Let's get right to meteorologist Danny Beckstrom from our New York station, WABC. Good evening to you, Danny. Can you time this out for us?
Hi, Lindsay. This strong line of storms stretches thousands of miles tonight from Texas to New York State, with severe thunderstorm watches still posted in cities like San Antonio and Jackson, and a tornado watch in parts of Pennsylvania. Heavy rain and hail also possible with this line as it tracks east before the severe threat fizzles late, turning to just showers overnight. But with the continued clash of air masses, cooler air to the north and near record warmth in the south, a very similar area sees the severe storm threat return by midweek, meaning not much time for these communities to clean up after the destructive weekend.
There it is. Tornado on the ground right there. You see it? The funnel.
Tonight, the same storm system that killed 8 people in Oklahoma and Michigan marching east across the Mississippi and Ohio valleys. In the wake of at least 13 tornadoes reported across Oklahoma and Michigan Friday, both governors declaring states of emergency.
We need to go because the storage shed just blew off.
In Three Rivers, Michigan, a rare, powerful EF3 tornado with winds of at least 150 miles per hour tearing apart homes and buildings. The National Weather Service says the storm was especially unusual, forming as it crossed several frozen lakes.
Holy cow.
In Union City, 4 people killed, at least a dozen injured, debris scattered across entire neighborhoods.
This is not good.
It's the state's deadliest outbreak of tornadoes since 1980. In Oklahoma, a deadly tornado tearing through Fairview, killing at least 2 people and injuring 2 others. Officials say this car was struck by a tornado, killing Jody and Lexi Owens, a mother and daughter. 2 people also killed after a tornado touched down in Beggs, Oklahoma, the storm ripping the roof off this middle school.
And the forecast focus will be the near record warmth in the southeast for the next couple of days, Lindsay. But by Tuesday and Wednesday, we're seeing that severe threat ramp right back up. Lindsay?
No rest for the weary, Danny. Thank you. Now to newly released videos of the deadly shooting of an American citizen by a federal immigration agent last year in Texas. The videos appear to contradict the Department of Homeland Security's allegations that the driver deliberately rammed an agent with his car. And we want to warn you that some viewers may find the images disturbing. Here's ABC's Christian Cordero.
Hey, where are you going? New questions tonight about newly released body camera footage showing the moments before a Homeland Security agent shot and killed a 23-year-old man in South Texas. The shooting happened 1 year ago on South Padre Island, a resort area popular with spring breakers. The video released as the Department of Homeland Security faces turmoil amid DHS Secretary Kristi Noem being ousted and a funding shutdown dragging into its 4th week. Homeland Security was among the agencies helping direct traffic around this intersection following a crash seen here on surveillance video. 23-year-old Ruben Ray Martinez later drove up and spoke with an officer. That clip has no audio, but another body camera picks up part of the interaction. The officer alleging Martinez has an open bottle. Multiple cameras then show Martinez driving off towards the intersection.
Stop him, stop him, stop him.
Moments later, the HSI agent identified as Jack Stevens fires his gun. The Department of Homeland Security says Martinez hit another agent with his car, which is unclear in the video. Martinez's brake lights appear to be on when he was shot. The 23-year-old American citizen died. A toxicology report showed THC and a blood alcohol level of 0.12 in his system, above the legal limit of 0.08. A grand jury ruled the shooting was justified.
Lindsay, we reached out to the DHS about the body camera videos and haven't heard back. Now, Martinez's death was the first of at least 6 fatal shootings by federal agents during President Trump's second term. Among them, Renee Good and Alex Preddy, both killed during protests against the federal immigration surge in Minneapolis. Lindsay.
Christian, thank you. There's still much more ahead on World News Tonight this Saturday. Protesters and counter-protesters clash outside the mayor's home in New York City. 2 arrested for allegedly throwing a suspicious device. Next tonight, this week, the Department of Justice released interview reports that included a woman's uncorroborated claims that President Trump sexually assaulted her. The woman alleges that she was also assaulted by Jeffrey Epstein, who she claims introduced her to the president. The FBI interviews were conducted in 2019, but the accusations date back to the 1980s when she was a teen. The DOJ says that they were mistakenly withheld from the most recently released batch of Epstein documents. The president has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing in the Epstein allegations and has not been charged with a crime. The White House press secretary called the allegations, quote, completely baseless, backed by 0 credible evidence. Next tonight, 2 people arrested after a suspicious device went off during an anti-Muslim protest here in New York. The protest outside Gracie Mansion, the mayor's residence, prompting counter-protesters to show up as well. 2 were arrested for allegedly throwing what is believed to be a smoke bomb. No injuries reported. When we come back, the only Division I men's basketball team to finish the season without losing a game. A record-setting season for Miami of Ohio's men's basketball team. The Redhawks finishing the regular season 31-0, the only unbeaten team in Division I men's basketball. But they're not guaranteed a spot in March Madness. For that, they may have to win their conference tournament next week. Coming up, the heartwarming story about a little girl awaiting a new heart. Finally, a reminder that the simplest gestures can lighten the hardest days. 4-year-old Brinley Wiselock has been a patient at Cleveland Clinic Children's, waiting for a new heart since Halloween, 127 days and counting. She was born healthy, but when she was 2, a combination of viruses left her heart severely weakened. Despite months of treatment, her condition worsened, and now she waits. But every afternoon, like clockwork, something special happens.
What time is it? 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
You ready to go?
At 3 o'clock sharp, Brinley goes to the window of her hospital room and looks across the street at a new hospital building under construction.
Here they are, Bryn.
They are a small group of construction workers helping build Cleveland Clinic's new neurological institute. Before they head home each day, several of them gather at a window across from Brinley's room, sending heart-shaped messages her way.
Give them a heart.
Brinley responds in kind, forming a heart with her hands.
Oh, there they are.
A wave, a sign. Small acts of kindness crossing the street each afternoon, bringing comfort to a little girl and her family as they wait for a life-saving call. Across the miles, we're sending light and love, Brinley. Good night.
David Muir, the most trusted anchor in America, the most watched anchor in America. Thank you for making World News Tonight with David Muir the #1 newscast in America.